People who want to make big money will make a better plan. And they'll sit down and actually counsel with somebody before they get started. So that's a good idea. So it says there's three mindsets. One is the poser. The poser kind of guesses, tries it, kind of does the scratch off card. Hey, let's try this, see if it works. And then you have the people who run around. The second kind of mentality is I'm going to look for the one thing that works. There has to be, one way to do this, and, they're not telling me. I showed up in meetings actually for a long time, thinking that there were people out there who just weren't telling me exactly that trick. Because in another job, there's a lot of competition. In most things, there's, super competition, so people don't give out their secrets. But in this, it actually hurts you to not give out what works, because the bigger the organization grows, the more money you make. And there's a saying inside of direct sales, and this is something that I wrote down and I really started to remember, is your objective is to get a lot of people doing a little bit over a long enough period of time. That's really what we're about. So the first half of what we're doing today is basically going to be the basics of building a business. And then the second half, we're going to go through this book, Leadership Gold. And that's going to be a whole separate training that we'll go ahead and tape and throw up online. So just mentality-wise, step one, poser, guesswork, trying, one day garage sale kind of mentality. Hey, we'll throw some mud and see what happens. Step two is you'll go and you'll really start looking for the answer, but you actually think that there's just like one mysterious thing that they're not telling you, and that's the reason it's not working. And then three, you have some realistic expectations. You actually sit down with somebody and say, okay, how do I build a business? What do I do? What should I do? So Brandy right now is helping us actually tag some people in this live video that are on the team, and that's going to help us bring on a group of people. Francisco's here with us. Jennifer's here with us. I know Tom is out and on his way. William's at work right now. Going to show up a little bit late. Christy's probably showing houses, if I had to guess right now. So I had a great conversation with some guys up on in our Milwaukee team, and that team is kind of amazing. They just broke, I believe, another sales director today in our organization, which means that's somebody new who brings on 10,000 in business. And did it ridiculously fast. I mean, like 2 weeks, just was like 25 people, just boom. So when you talk about people who have influence, that's the kind of people you want to bring on board. So 3 ways to think, think like a business owner, think like a networker, and last, you want to think like a leader. And Simon Sinek says leaders eat last. And he's like, the reason leaders eat last is they're going to do everything to provide for everybody else before they sit down to the table. And that's really the mentality you have to have inside of direct sales. You want to do everything for long term. And it's a really weird way to think. I mean, most of the thinking inside of normal work is get to work late, do as little as possible, take as many breaks as possible, and then get ready 15 to an hour before you leave. And I love what, has everybody seen the movie Office Space? You guys seen the movie Office Space? And he's like, I love that. Hey, Josh, what's up? I love the movie Office Space when he's like sitting down with the two coaches or consultants, and he's like, I basically do about 15 minutes of actual work here every day. He's like, I get here the first hour, I space out. They're like, space out? He's like, yeah, I just think about nothing, and do nothing for about the first hour. And then I go get a cup of coffee. I mean, it was so realistic to what's actually happening. Meeting with the Bobs. So funny. He's like, Michael Bolton? Any relation? No. So it's just a great show, but it really proves, business-wise where people are at, that's what people do. So in business, it's like the total opposite. It's 100% responsibility. Your job is to help everybody else first, and that's a really hard mentality to get into if you've always been taking care of just you. So there's 2 forms of leadership. There's selfish leadership. Hey, Kevin, how are you? There's selfish leadership, and then there's selfless leadership. Selfish leadership is doing the things you should do to set the example. Just for your kids, you should brush your teeth if you tell them to. Just saying. You should clean up if you tell them to. Because if not, they're going to use all that against you later. I'm just saying, I've seen it happen. I've done it. Let's be real honest, I've done it a lot. So that's just what goes on. So the second thing is selfless leadership. That's where you're going in and helping other people. And that was a really hard concept for me, because I was, and maybe this is because, single child, it was just me until I was like 13, and then my little brother comes along. Hey, John, how are you? My little brother comes along, and all of a sudden there's another person there. But up until then, I kind of, could manipulate the situation and grab attention and, throw a fit. I still do that, let's be honest. Some of the people on here know me. So a mindset is a particular way of thinking. So really change your mindset about business, about how to do this is one of the hardest parts. And a lot of people say, well, I just need to know what to do, and it's really a different way of thinking. And the thinking is just long-term rather than short-term. Short-term is I'm trying to get out of here today. Long-term is what do I need to do today? So long-term, it actually builds upon itself, and you can actually make money doing it. So this is just kind of a list. Programming, philosophy, identity, thinking, attitude, actions, habits, results, lifestyle, and legacy. And this is kind of how life works. It starts with programming. Where do you get your programming from? Where do you think programming comes from?
How you're raised.
How you're raised. So who gives you the first input you have?
Parents.
Parents and or guardians. So your parents and or guardians. So do you think that has a lot to do with how you see things?
Obviously.
And if you don't, just remember that first time that you repeat exactly what your parents repeated to you to somebody else, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm turning into, have you ever yelled at somebody, blah, 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 and you're like, I just used the exact words. I mean, that's how deep that programming is. So, and that has to do with everything, all the way down to, what to do with a dollar. And there's a great trainer inside the business inside not our company, but inside our industry that talks about, he's like, man, I got messed up. He's like, I got messed up growing up. And he's like, I got told all these things. And he's like, I'm guessing not only did I get messed up, but I'm guessing this person not only influenced me, but they influenced you too. And he's like, because I got told all these things and I started asking my friends, and my friends knew these things too. And he's like, my gosh, did my family influence you guys too? Or are they all reading from the same book? And he's like, I mean, think about this one. Money doesn't grow on
trees.
You don't want to get into one of those get rich quick
Schemes.
All the people who make all the money always will go to hell. I don't know if you've heard that one. People who make big money go to hell. So there's these things that we've been taught over time. Hi Bonnie, hi Candace. What ends up happening is these things that we've been taught and been, telling our kids and things like that get programmed into us, and that programming goes into our philosophy. There is a predominant philosophy that people owe you something, or the system owes you something. And you see people all the time with their hands out, well, why didn't I get it? Somebody else got it. If you're destined with that philosophy, how do you think it's going to work in business when you just expect things to happen for you? How hard would it be?
Fair.
I mean, it's really hard, and people are like, I just don't get this. I show up too. Why aren't people just following me? Well, it has more to do with your programming and your philosophy, and your programming and philosophy come into how you think about something. So then you're going to sit down and think about, how should I build the business? And some people think, well, the way to build a business is do this because my programming tells me that people owe me something, or my thinking tells me people owe me something, so therefore people should get in and do this. And then I've actually gotten asked by several people, well, why don't you just put people on my team if you're so good at this? Because then I make money. I'm not even going to answer that to tell you what happens. Hey, James, what's happening?
He doesn't even do it for me, so therefore, you don't.
So that's just, and people do. They'll ask me, they're like, well, you're so good at recruiting. Why don't you just stack people? You can just recruit people for me. Can you just give me like a handful of people? I don't need a lot. I just need a handful of people to work with. You're going to work with them. Well, what would you possibly teach them if you don't know what to do? I'm going to manage them. Oh, okay. That's why I'm going to spend money. I'm going to get in to be managed. But that's some people's mentality. It's just how it is. And that thinking goes down into their attitude. Your attitude is basically the feelings of how you get influenced. And one thing that I found out, basically learning from Tony Robbins, is your state of mind. So the state in which your body is when you hear something, and how you take things in. So have you ever heard something or experienced something in a movie, and all of a sudden you get emotional and you have no idea why? I didn't realize this, but that feeling and how your body is tied to the memories of the past. So if you went through something traumatic, or you had some experience with family of any kind, and you see it in a movie and it hits that emotion, all of a sudden it triggers all that stuff and brings it back. So the same thing is true with the work. David, how you doing? Mulaney's with us too. Welcome. So what we're doing is just going over, guys, the basics to building a business, direct sales business. Hi, Lisa. How are you? Hope things are going well. So the basics to building a business and putting things together. So what we're talking about is your programming leads into your philosophy leads into your thinking leads into your attitude of how you feel about things. So if you're thinking the wrong things and you're feeling the wrong things, what do you think your activity level is going to be? It's going to be pretty bad. You know, that's why people, I was told there's three things. You have to think right, to act right, to feel right. Unfortunately, most people do it backwards, right? I'm feeling like this, so therefore I'm not going to do anything, which is your activity, and then all of a sudden later you're like, I feel like crap. Why do you feel like crap? Well, because now you've thought about what happened, you're like, oh, I should have, I could have, I would have. So one of the keys is getting yourself to act when you don't feel like that. And Tony Robbins, again, actually talks about this. He said that is the main key to success, is if you can get yourself to act even when you don't feel. Doing the right thing regardless of what's going on. It's a tough thing to do, but here's the thing. If you feel like stealing it, and you do, and you get in trouble, whose fault is it?
Yours.
Yours. The same thing is true about success, or setting an example and things like that. So it's a really tough thing to do, but then that activity leads into your habits, and your habits lead into your results, and your results lead into your lifestyle, and your lifestyle ends up leaving a legacy for somebody else. So if you don't get it right, somebody else will pay the price. And that's the unfortunate part. So with that being said, we're going to go into your programming, your philosophy. You know, a lot of people say, well, how do I change this? Well, it has a lot to do with the input you have. It has to be more good than bad. So what my mentor told me is, he said, if we took a glass of water that was 8 ounces and it had dirt in it and all this crud and crap from before, and we started pouring water in, you can pour eventually enough water in where it'll eventually filter out all the bad, and then it's a clear cup. And he's like, how long does it take? He's like, it depends on how much you're pouring in, right? I mean, if you're only putting in 1 drop a year, it's going to take your whole lifetime and you're never going to get the dirt out. But you can actually flood it, and the faster you flood it, the better. So what I did is I started controlling all the things I watched, all the things I heard, all the people I was around. And that was really tough, because it was kind of like I wanted certain friendships, but the people that were around me were negatively influencing me. So one of the things I had to do is I had to get away from all the people who I was around and basically cut all those relationships out, which in turn did what? It made me even worse than I was. Like, I was depressed because of the people I was around, because I wasn't around the right people. But then I was like, well, I need some better people, but I had to get rid of all of them to be able to get new ones. Because here's something that's unfortunate is the people you're around will influence everything you do, right? So the people that I was around were influencing my relationships with the better people that I wanted to get around. So I was like, I have to remove myself from all of these people, or I can't open the door to the ones I want. Because if they, have you ever been guilty by association? You're like, but that wasn't me. But your friendship with that person, and you know, that's tough. So you really have to guard who you're around. Next, you talk about, you know, what you think. You know, if you want to build a business, you have to think the right way. John, what's up, man? Hopefully you're having a good day. Starting people out right, obeying the laws of duplication, protecting your team, and then a growth cycle. So we're going to go through these 5 things here real quick about building a business. Hi, Julie. How are you? Hopefully things are going well. We're just at our event, going through some basics. So are you doing everything? Are you being consistent? And are you teaching it? The first thing to learn is what are the right things to do. And that's what we're here to talk about, is the 10 things that you need to do to be able to build an organization successfully. And what we're talking about successfully is getting enough people to do enough part-time, so that way long-term you can make enough money. So there's a term inside of direct sales or inside of network marketing that says get a lot of people to do a little bit over a long enough period of time and you'll have a giant income. And I've seen this happen for many, many people. And when I say many people, there's approximately 5,000 people inside of direct sales that earn over $20,000 a month. There's around 200 people that earn over $80,000 a month. So there's about 200 people who earn $1 million plus. There's about, you know, somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 people who earn $250,000 plus. And I'm not, unfortunately, I don't know the exact statistic on how many people earn 6 figures, but it's about 1%. I mean, it's a small number, let's face it, but this is something you can choose. You know, a lot of people say, well, you know, the statistics on people making it in those businesses are so small. That's true, but they're better than the NFL because the NFL has a limited number of teams, right? You know, it's better than the NBA because I wasn't born, you know, over 6 feet tall. You know, and even if you're 6 feet tall, I wasn't born athletic. I mean, I had a lot of things going wrong for me. I didn't play basketball. That was one of them. You know, so being picked up by a professional sports team to be paid that kind of money. But this you can actually choose to do, and you can be any age and you can be any background. And they're not, sitting down and questioning, well, what is your religion and where did you go to school and what people do you know? I mean, you just get in and you do the work. And here's what's cool is if you provide a service to the marketplace pays you in direct proportion to the service you provide. So what I realized is what is the greatest service I can provide is teach people how to make money. If you can teach people how to make money through the skills of contact, invite, present, follow up, and close, if you can teach people how to make money, and you can teach those skills well, that will basically bring people into the marketplace for you to work with. So very cool. Getting people started right, we're going to go over that in detail, but the basics are, can I do what you just did? Because if I can't do what you just did, I don't feel that this is going to work for me, and if it doesn't work for me, then that's not good. The second piece is, do I have the time to do what you're doing? So what I wanted to do is I wanted to create a contact that's so fast. We use text message, we use Facebook now, and we'll talk about that in this next part that we're doing, is I use text message to almost contact everybody, whether it's a lead, whether it's a friend, whether it's whatever. I use text message constantly to keep in touch with people. And then last, am I okay doing what you're doing? One of the things I found people don't like inside of direct sales or network marketing is the super pushy person. Hi Maggie, how are you? I've been following, your adventure, and I can't wait to actually come over to Poland and see what's going on. We were just talking about going up to the Red Apple in Chicago, the all-you-can-eat Polish buffet that we almost got thrown out of last time. I mean, they didn't throw us out, but I got that evil eye, by the people who ran it and owned it. Like, you've been here 4 hours and you're still eating, the potato pancakes and stuff. You got to go. It was a good time. And we are allowed back, I'm just kidding. But we're going to take a group of people up there because it's fantastic food. So can I do what you did? Do I have the time to do what you did? And is it okay? Do I feel okay? And we're going to talk about that. It's the best food. I love it. Hung Larson's with us. How are you? So next, obey the laws of duplication. So there's a couple things. When somebody brings an idea to me and says, hey, I've got this great way to recruit people. I've got this great way to do this. What I do is I've got to run it through this filter. So when somebody brings something to me, they said, oh my gosh, I've got this great way, and I'll give you an example, something that's really popular right now, is we can build this amazing online blah, 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 blah that'll create leads. And I said, well, great, let's run it through the laws of duplication. Does it work instantly? Meaning, can I teach it to somebody in the next 30 minutes? And the person's like, no. And I'm like, well, right there, it violates the laws of duplication, therefore I won't use it. And that's how fast I can make a decision on something. I don't care what it is. Let's say it's some graphic design thing, I'm just making this up. Maybe it's like making a special painting or a special design that will attract people to your business. And I said, well, can we learn it instantly? Meaning, can I teach it in 30 to 45 minutes? And people are like, no. And I'm like, well, then it violates the first law, so therefore it's out. Second law is, will it work 10 levels below me? So if I teach whatever you're talking about, and I'm going to use the online marketing thing because that's really popular right now. If I teach the online marketing thing to set up a funnel where somebody clicks on something and then they click on something else and then they watch something else and they click on something else and then the email comes across and then we get it. If it doesn't work in 30 minutes and it doesn't work in depth, then now it violates 2 of the laws, therefore I won't do it. The third one, it must work with people I don't know. So I meet somebody for the first time and I'm like, not only do you have to do this, but you got to go do this, 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 this. Will that work? No. It's not that. That's not a successful marketing technique for a business, but it doesn't work inside of direct sales. And therefore, that's why you see these people who struggle. They get into 50 other things that try to feed into direct sales. And I'm like, it doesn't work because it violates these rules. If it violates these rules, I won't do it. I won't teach it. I won't promote it. I won't be involved. Next. It must work 1,000 miles away, meaning can you teach it over the phone? Can you teach it over the phone, without ever having to step foot where you're at? I've been able to teach tons of people over the phone how to text message somebody the message and get them on the phone with me, and they get started and it works. Next, it must work when an amateur does it to a professional and vice versa. So what we're talking about is the basics to be able to build an organization, to be able to build an income that comes in regardless if you're basically doing it or not. So if you want to make big money, learn to do these things. Learn to do something that works instantly, 10 levels below you with people you don't know, 1,000 miles away, when an amateur does it to a professional. And you can add one more. It has to work in another language, which is really interesting, right? because eventually you want a business that works multicultural, multi-language, outside of the state you're in. It's pretty cool. So next, protect your team. Protect your team, keep it simple, keep it easy. So when somebody does have this great, amazing idea that they want to bring into your group and they want to try to tell everybody, you got to protect your team and be like, hey, I wouldn't do that if I were you. And here's why. I'm not telling you I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you why I won't use it. And I won't use it because it's harmful to what we're doing, which is really hard, sometimes because you want to help people and you want to make sure that they are okay. Hi, Jessica. How are you? We're just talking about how to build a long-term business, how to build a team of people. And here's what's funny, is if you teach this stuff well, you'll have people follow you from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing because you do it the right way. I was amazed at how many people came on board and they're like, well, not only have you done it, you've helped people again and again, so we'll follow you. So number 5 is understanding the growth cycle. So what people will do is they'll get in and they'll learn something. And Jessica's on here, so this is, you'll understand this, think about yoga. And she's actually now a certified yoga instructor. I don't know all of your certifications. If you want to put those, I can talk about it. But she's a certified yoga instructor. And I know this only because yoga and martial arts they kind of relate to me, because what we have to do is we have to teach kind of some basic stuff. So first of all, you teach it, and then you go out and fall. Basically, has anybody done yoga before here? Yeah, trying to hold those poses and get them right, it's hard, you fall over. But eventually what you do is you got to try it over and over and over again to finally get it right. And then once you get it right, it's like, okay, this is fun. Martial arts is the same way. They say, here's how to kick, here's how to punch, here's how to stand. You should see all of us trying to do the kicks the first time. It was awful. More people are falling down and they're like, I'm like, are we learning self-defense? Because as far as I know, if you fall every time, you're going to get your ass kicked. And we did for a while until you start learning the techniques the right way, and then all of a sudden you become better. And that's the whole point of this. So activity mode, modeling knowledge, you want to follow somebody who knows how to do it. I remember, I'm just using Jessica's example because she just popped up here, but I remember Jessica actually going to Mexico to learn this, and I can go back and I can remember when she was first trying to do these poses and get them right, and now all of a sudden I see the pictures and I'm like, wow. It's amazing. She modeled after really good people, and then all of a sudden now she's teaching it because now she's like, hey, it's learnable. It's learnable. It's something you can do. And whether it's yoga or martial arts or direct sales, it is something you can learn. But it's difficult. It's not easy. You're not going to get it in one day. If a yoga instructor comes in and says you're going to learn all these poses in one day, you shouldn't give that person money. I'm just saying. If a martial artist says I can teach you how to fight really good in one day, you should run because you can't. You're going to get beat up. So with that, what we're going to do is talk about the growth cycle. What's next? What's next is, particularly in our company, is basically getting in, getting activated, getting started, getting paid and promoted, and getting your 5. These are just 5 steps. So when somebody gets in and says, hey, what do we do? And Maggie's actually a dance. I don't know if you are certified, but you should be a dance instructor. Dance, yoga, martial arts, exactly the same thing. Here's a couple of the steps, and then you go back and you have to master it again and again and again and again, and eventually those couple steps will lead into sections, and then all of a sudden you watch somebody go out and dance and you're like, are you kidding me? And they look so amazingly talented, but if you knew how many times they did that first 3, 4, 5 steps, it would boggle your mind. Hi Becky, thanks for joining us. So in our particular company, you want to get in. Obviously, if you're not in, it's very hard to get started. The second part is you want to get activated. And it really doesn't matter what company you're in. You want to get activated. You want to make sure all the services or all the product, try your stuff, know what you're involved in, so that way you have the ability to help out. Number 3 is getting started. Getting started, we're going to go over that, but that's basically just getting the program in front of 10 people, and I'll give you kind of my thoughts and mentality on that here in a second. Getting paid and promoted. Also, very, very important. That's really where I know it worked and it can duplicate, because once somebody gets paid and promoted, they can turn around and help somebody else get paid and promoted. And we'll talk about how to do that more efficiently inside of a business, and then get your 5. In our particular company, once you have 5 sales or 5 people with you on your team, the product line is free. So a lot of companies have 3 and it's free, 4 and it's free, 5 and it's free. Everything's different based on the industry, but a lot of companies have this. So that's one of the first things we want to help people do, is get their service for free, because if they get their service for free, they're going to be a walking, talking billboard for what we do. Next, Here's the 8-step pattern in getting started. So this is what I was taught. Now, I was taught this by a gentleman in direct sales who currently is on the list of the top earners of all time. His name is Dexter, and write this number down. This is a good number to remember. He's earned in excess of $450 million in commissions. That's like in another 2 years, if he lives that long, because he's like 80 something, mid 80s, almost 90, I think. If he lives as long enough, he will exceed $500 million in commissions. Now, here's what's ironic or weird. He actually retired in the 80s, and he's still the #1 earner every year. He's in the top 3 every year. Retired in the 80s. Hasn't built the business. I mean, he spoke, but like he wasn't out building, doing it. So that's pretty successful. But I mean, when you start in 1964, you did it long enough, right? 64, 74, 84. Yeah, about 25 years, really hard. So the first thing he said is define your dream. And this doesn't matter what business you're building. I mean, you should really define your dream and really narrow down what you want. Like what kind of income you want, what kind of lifestyle you want, how much does it cost? To put your kids through private school, to have tutors, to be able to take a trip. If you really wrote down all the things that you wanted, you could basically come up with like a dream budget. And that dream budget will then allow you and give you a number to live a dream life. And here's the thing. A lot of people say, well, I've never been materialistic. I've never done this. I've never done that. That's true, but food is materialism. So if you want to eat good food, you're kind of materialistic. If you want to sleep indoors, you're kind of materialistic. If you want your kids to go to a school system, that's kind of materialism, right? So set your goals, how fast you want to achieve that. I set goals according to levels in a company. That's how I've always done it. Well, how fast can we get you to the first level? How fast can we get you to the second level? How fast can we get you to the third level? And then as we achieve the levels, the money always comes. Next, write your invite list. I always have people write a list of 10. And people say, well, why not 100? I've always heard 100 because 10's easier. 10's much easier to do. So I always give people a list of 10 because I want to present to 10 people. I teach them how to contact their list, and I do that through text messaging, and we'll talk about how to do that. I say, do me a favor. I want to share something with you that a friend of mine is working on. So if you run into the right person, you can refer them to us. That's how I do it. That contact by itself has kind of put me in a position where I've never gotten turned down. Never. Every single person I've ever asked, I say, hey, can you do me a huge favor? And we were actually talking with a gentleman, and I'm not going to give names out, but we were talking with a gentleman recently. He makes $75,000 a month. Okay, Tom, see you in about 2 hours, man. Be safe. I see the weather outside. I'm looking out the window, and it is like pitch black in one area. I don't know how the weather is where you're at, but be careful. So that's just one of the things to keep in mind is keeping it simple. Text message, do something that works every time. And this gentleman that we talked to, $75,000 a month, I said, hey, we just need a huge favor. We just want to share with you what we're doing. So if you happen to run into the right person, because obviously you're successful at what you do, if you happen to run into him, you can refer him to us. And he's like, sure, here's my number. Here's, when can we talk? He's like, I'm not busy this day and this day. And I mean, it worked so easy. I was expecting some kind of rejection from somebody who makes that kind of money. And they didn't even have an objection. Talked to another friend of mine, who's on the top 100 list, resigned basically from the industry right now. Same thing. I said, hey, can I just share with you real quick what we're doing? So if you run into the right guy, I mean, obviously you have people hit you up all the time for stuff. Can we just share with you what we're doing? Sure. So I got to present to somebody who makes almost $4 million a year, and it was easy. In fact, it was more easy than most of the stuff we tried to do. I'll tell you, it was more easy than my first 10 years in the industry when I was trying all kinds of fancy techniques that were stupid, that didn't work, that caused all kinds of ridiculous objections. Presenting the opportunity. What I did is I learned a presentation that's about 10 minutes. And here's my rule. If I can't present the whole thing, I present nothing. If I don't have time to present everything, do you have 10 minutes so I can go through everything? If they don't have 10 minutes, I don't tell them anything. Well, just tell me what it is first. Go jump off fucking cliff. No. I'm running the show. I asked you for 10 minutes. If you don't have 10 minutes to listen to everything, I'm not telling you anything. That's how it works. And here's the funny thing. As soon as you stand your ground the first time, your confidence level goes up. You don't have people. I don't get challenged on that anymore. At all. And here's the other thing is I stopped asking people that that otherwise I wouldn't want to spend time with anyway, because initially I kind of tried to share the business with people that probably weren't the best people in the world. And then eventually I just got away from all that, and it saved me a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of energy, a lot of heartache, a lot of like, well, why didn't they want to do it? Because they need money and they should do it. The follow through. I spent the morning while I was kind of getting the books ready, because we're going to go through John Maxwell's training later. While I was getting those books ready, I was following up with people, and here's my follow-up. Hey, how are you? I mean, you'd think it was, be something elaborate. Hey, how are you? How's your day? How was the week? June's almost over. Are you going anywhere? Are you doing anything? And what I do is that's where I start building relationships with people. What I made a mistake of in the beginning is I followed up with them, and I always made it specifically about the business. Hey, I was calling about the business. I was calling about the business. I was calling about the product. I was calling about the service. I was calling about whatever product line. And what I found is people just started avoiding talking to me because they knew every conversation was about that. And when I started asking them about them, hey, I know you're trying to buy a house. How did that go? Hey, you just had a kid. How are things? I just had another friend that had a little one and really didn't tell anybody that, he was, it's hard to hide that you're having a kid, but his girlfriend and him just didn't really make it public. And then all of a sudden, he was at the hospital and he's like, hey, I have a kid. And I was like, hey, cool, exciting. Did you, I instant message, did you know that you had, you want to ask those questions to some of your friends. I'm just saying. So keeping in touch with people is good, but make it about them, and there's a great book by Maxwell that we'll go through. Everybody Communicates, Few Connect, and we'll probably do that one in August leading into the team building seminar we're going to do. But being able to communicate with people and really connect with them and asking them about them and finding out about them and being able to follow up with what's going on is I have a running list of all the people I talked to. I have another friend that owns a mortgage company, and I was asking him, hey, how's the mortgage company going? He's like, it's going great, but we're also opening another company. Oh, great. Well, what is that? And I'm taking notes and finding out who he is. I talked to another friend of mine out in California, said, what's going on? How's the pet grooming business? What's happening with that? And we talked about, so that's my follow-up is life. And what happens is as you build a relationship and you help people with life, then all of a sudden they're more interested in what you're doing and how it's working. Because eventually every single one of these people asks me this: how's your business going? How's that credit thing going? Great, we're helping a lot of people. We're seeing more and more results. My credit score's gone up over 100 points. And they're like, wow, that's really working. Yeah, it's good. It's funny that most people will eventually just tell me they want to do it rather than me ever asking for it, because I just keep in touch with them. And what I find is most people, have you ever fallen out of touch with somebody and then it's kind of like awkward to start a conversation again? Or especially if you want to talk to them about business, it's really awkward to talk to them because then you're like, hey, I haven't talked to this person and they had a kid and they moved and they got divorced and they got remarried and I haven't said anything to them and now I'm going to hit them up for business. Well, instead of doing that, why not catch up with them first? Make it the third conversation. Hey, I want to catch up, find out how are you, what's going on, I started a new career and I started reevaluating my life. That's a really good way to put it. I started reevaluating my life and all the people I hadn't talked to, and I knew I needed to get back in touch with you, but how are you? Let them take it from there, because then it's just as awkward for them because they're like, well, shit, I didn't reach out either. Does that make sense? So you're being the bigger person saying, hey, I goofed up. Life happened, I just want to get back in touch. And I've done that with a lot of people, and it really builds a bridge rather than a wall. Following up. Checking your progress. Checking your progress is easy with this system. You just track it. I have a friend that just started in a real estate company up in Milwaukee, and he actually took a picture of his whiteboard. And I want to say it started at 10 a.m., but he had a 10 a.m., an 11 a.m., a 12:30, a 1:30, a 2, a 3, and a 4. They started the real estate company, guess what? Yesterday. They had that many appointments already. So and he's one of those people, this couple that I work with, they put 18,000 people in their last company. 18,000 people in their downline. They ran their own market, they did everything. And that was one of the things that we sat down when we first started talking. I'm like, what are you tracking? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, if you're not, you track what you want to grow and you ignore what you want to die. Bad habits, you ignore. Bad food, you ignore. Bad people, you ignore. That'll just eliminate itself. Because eventually those people will figure it out, right? You just ignore it. I'm not mean to them. I'm not upset with them. I mean, some of them I'll just come out and I'll be like, I'm specifically avoiding people who have these backgrounds. You know, if you constantly bring drama and shit, delete. I don't delete people, by the way, on Facebook. I just unfollow you. So that way you have to see all the good stuff I have and I don't have to see any of the crap you put up. It's kind of a good deal. I like Facebook for that. Because before I only had one choice. It was like, get rid of this person. So, check your progress and then repeat and teach the 10 course. So that's what we're going to go through here real quick. You know, imagine making an extra $1,000 a month, $1,000 a week, or $1,000 a day. That's how I get into dream building with people. Next, you talk about, you know, our company, becoming a field trainer in the industry. What does it take? And I sit down with people and I go over this, but I go through each one of the levels in our company, sales director, regional sales director. It's great because when I first put this together, I didn't have regional on there because I thought, well, it'll be a while before people reached it. Yeah, like 15 days. Thanks, Jesse. You know, Jesse already hit it. He's like, well, what's the next level? I was like, you know, that's awesome. You know, he's already passed what, you know, we already predicted, and he's already breaking people at the top level that we put on this. Halfway up the chart already. So write your list. Your list is actually your business, your inventory, and that's something you want to keep track of. Not only the list of people you're talking to, but the result. Because eventually what you want to do is you want to put all those people where? Into a database. So you can keep track of it. We started doing this with our holistic health practice years ago. And now, how many people do we have in there? I mean, you probably checked it recently.
What, the database? We have close to 4,000 people in our database right now.
So close to 4,000 people in about 4 years. So about 1,000 people a year into the database, which is not that many. But it's okay. It basically is a great sustainable business. I want to do the exact same thing with this business that we work on, you know, our credit business. And you should do the same thing with your business. If you don't have a database, here's the thing. If you're not tracking, you don't have a database, then you really don't have a business. You have a really fun hobby. Actually, it's not even fun. It's probably an expensive hobby. So contacting and inviting, here's some things that don't work. Just posting on Facebook doesn't work. Just throwing out a tweet doesn't work. Just Instagram doesn't work. What we are going to suggest is actually physically talking to people. I know it's weird. It's non-traditional nowadays to actually physically talk to people, but we're getting more done having conversations with people than any other source of media that I know of. In fact, out of the 35 people that I've recruited frontline since March, all of them have been conversations. Not one of them has come through another medium. Now, I might have initially like, hey, what's up on Facebook? But eventually I got into a conversation. I actually presented to each one of those people. And there's probably another 60, 70 that are kind of out there that told me, hey, get back with me because timing's not right. And I followed up with them today. So next, don't mass text people or mass Facebook, meaning a whole big group and send one message out because then they'll just think you're spamming and they'll shut you down, or Google will take away your account, Facebook will take away your account. Two mindsets. The first mindset is sell everybody. Sell, close, 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 close. And that's one technique. That's chasing to me. I don't like chasing. I like only dealing with the people who are kind of joining for the right reason. And what I mean by the right reason is they heard what I did, they liked what I did, they liked how I approached them, so they decided to join. I don't close people. I mean, it's like people just tell me, hey, I'm ready, which is kind of fun. Present to as many people as you can and educate them. Show them what you do. So if you're educating people and you just want to show them what you do, you have to ask them the right. You have to go, another webinar. I appreciate it. Maggie, hopefully things are well. Tell your sister I said hi, and wish you the best over in Poland. Let us know what you're doing. Keep us up to date. Thanks. So present to as many people as I can. Show them and ask them how to basically help you find the ideal client. That's what I want help with. Help me find the ideal client. So do me a favor. I want to share with you what I'm doing, so if you run into the right person, you can refer them to me. Next. That's the contact. Do me a favor. Present. There's all kinds of ways to present. I've done it one-on-one. I've done it face-to-face. You've done a lot of phone conversations, right?
Yeah.
Phone conversation first, and then the people who are super serious, what do they say? I want to meet you face-to-face. Just got off the phone earlier. That's what we had earlier. Somebody's like, hey, we heard about this. Now we need to meet face-to-face or get on, a webinar or something. They want to see you, especially if they don't know you. If they know you, they might still want to meet, just kind of see, draw it out, that kind of thing. That's just what I found works. Follow up. Different ways to follow up. Most people don't follow up, so follow up, put it in your phone, contact them back. If you don't know how to follow up, get with somebody who knows how to follow up. Follow-up's part of the deal. Check your progress, get with a person, get a kind of a planner of some kind, even if you're using your phone. That's not the best one, but a phone will work. I like to write it down. I like a notebook every single month that I go through. I've been doing this for about a decade this way. I use a single, 50-cent notebook from Walmart. I spend a lot of money on this. It's professional. One of those composition notebooks, I write, this is the month and here's all the people I talk to, and that's what I keep, and I teach that to everybody because it works instantly, it's simple, it's easy, it's duplicatable, work 1,000 miles away. As far as I know, in Spanish, the notebook's exactly the same. In Chinese, a composition notebook is exactly the same. In Arabic, composition notebook is exactly the same. The writing on the front's a little bit different. It might cost different in different places. Are you in business for yourself but not by yourself? That's the key. So, getting started right, that's number one. Getting activated is number two. So let's get into this. Get basically, and in our company, it's basically get activated with our services, get them on, share them, and then show the results. And it doesn't matter what company you're in, that's what you want to do. You want to share the results of people. If it's yoga, you want to show people who are succeeding and actually able to balance and not fall on their head like me. If it's martial arts, you want to show people breaking boards and doing spin kicks and things like that. If it's dance, it's basically the event. If it's a weight loss company, it'd probably be a good idea to show people losing weight. I'm just saying. If you have a skincare line of any kind, use the skincare line and show the results that people are getting better looking. Now, if they're getting uglier, don't use them. Core number two, professional development. So I was taught if you want to get better, the very first thing you can do to build your business is build yourself. And however you do things is basically however they'll do things. So I worked harder on me than I did on anything, but it took me about a decade to get started. I bought all the books, had amazing bookshelf full of books, never opened them, read the covers. I actually knew the names of the books and the authors, but I didn't know a single thing that was inside the book. I'm I would recommend it. I'm oh my gosh, there's this great book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and Napoleon Hill's story is blah, 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 blah. They're well, what are the 13 things inside the book? I'm I have no idea. I'll stop talking to you right now. Next person. Is there anybody? Anybody at all? So 21 Laws of Leadership. I actually was given that book twice before I read it. I read 2 chapters the first time. I'm this is the dumbest book I've ever read. And I put it away. 6 months later, I had 100 people on my team. I reopened the book, and I was this guy's a genius. Where was this information a year ago? It's the same information that I read before. It was just I was at a different point. So, pretty funny. Starting Your Business Right by John Maxwell. Amazing, amazing audio. And you actually don't even have to buy that anymore. You can go on YouTube and steal it like everything. No, I'm kidding. You can go on YouTube because people have uploaded that. It's a great training to listen to. Especially in the car, it's fantastic. If you're going to drive, Florida or anywhere, listen to that for a couple hours. Especially if you really want to get back at your kids, you can annoy the shit out of them and listen to personal development for 8 hours and be you're going to be the smartest people in the world when we get there. They're just get me out of the car. If I hear one more positive statement, I'm gonna, I'm gonna beat somebody up.
Or they're gonna be bored to death and they'll go to sleep.
And then they'll learn even more if they're asleep. It's great. Reading is the equivalent of thinking with somebody else's head. Instead of one's own. Arthur Schopenhauer. Arthur Schopenhauer. So marketing. A lot of people I want to learn marketing. Here's the easiest thing about marketing in the world: talk to somebody, and then talk to somebody else and track it. Talk to somebody and then talk to somebody else. Track it. It's actually the most important thing about marketing is what you do with the information after you talk to them. I'll give you an example of what I did. I wrote it on a napkin or a receipt or the back of an envelope, and I put it in my special filing cabinet called my desk. And then a year later, I opened that desk, and there's 1,000 receipts in there, and there's 1,000 back of credit cards receipts and back of restaurant receipts, and it'll say something like Bob, 31752, blah, 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 blah. No other notes, no email, no reference to what, I don't even know who Bob is. I don't know if I met him at that restaurant or that was the receipt that I had in my pocket at the time. So keeping track of what you're doing is kind of important. So if you're not a detail person, I'd suggest coming up with some kind of plan. What I started doing is initially I used something that was free. I used Google, and I set up a Google Gmail, and I added every single one of my contacts to that Google Gmail account. And that was where I put everybody because I figured I'm going to lose stuff. But if Google loses stuff, the world is over, right? I mean, if Google doesn't work and you can't get online to Google, the world's over. You don't need that information anyway. All you're going to need is probably a machete and hopefully a way to grow some food. Internal database, external database. And what that means is the external database are the people you have not talked to yet. The internal database are the people you've talked to already that haven't gotten started. Because you want to talk to those two different ways, right? The people who have already seen what you do, you can update them and be like, hey, we just had some more success. We just brought another person onto the team. We just had another person hit sales director. We just had another person. And here's the thing, it doesn't have to be your particular team. It was really funny. One of the guys is like, he's like, you won't believe this. Inside of our team and our event, we just helped. This is how he used it. He's like, we've helped a ton of people. We've helped over 42 people hit 6 figures. And he's like, yeah, I sat in the room. He's like, I was a participant. He's like, those people couldn't have gotten to that level if I wasn't sitting there because the room would be empty, right? You know, that seat would be empty. Somebody else would. He's like, even though he hadn't even made $1 in the industry yet, but he was using that success story, and that's how he built upon it. He eventually learned how to use other people's success to build. That's kind of the point. Internal and external database. So spend time presenting. This is what I track. People want to know, well, Jeff, what do you track? What do you keep track of? I track the number of presentations I do. I track how many I do for other people, and I track how many I do for myself. That's the only really thing that I track. Not because there aren't more things to track, it's just because I have ADHD and I won't remember. So to keep it simple, to keep it easy, to keep it duplicatable, to keep it something that anybody can do, I track the number of presentations. And then I'm able to look back and say, oh, I got 3 people in. How many presentations did it take to get those 3 people in? If you do that for an entire year, what you'll do is you'll start coming up with a ratio. And then you know, if you want 10 people, if you know what your ratio is, you just then have to present to that many people. And that's how, I mean, the best that I've seen who have been able to build these companies, that's how they've done it. So, attend a presentation weekly. We have a weekly presentation. This next Tuesday, we're actually going to have it. It's going to be via Facebook because I'm going to be out of town. But we're just going to do it online, Facebook Live. We do that every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. If your company doesn't have that, I would suggest starting one and do it once a week. Next, we have a training. We have a core training every Sunday night, which is tomorrow, 9 p.m. That goes over the basics of how to get started and the 10 core of what to do. We kind of run through this information. Next, attend a monthly regional. Our next regional is July the 21st. We have tickets already here and ready. We'll set that up online to be able to do as of tomorrow. And what we do is the tickets advance in price. They're $20 today, which is half off, and then they'll go to $25 next week, and then $30 the following week, and $35, and then $40 at the door. So we're getting those out. The next one we're doing is this one right here. It's actually the 15 Laws of Growth. The 15 Laws of Growth by John C. Maxwell. It's basically the 15 laws of how to grow your business, how to grow yourself and your business, and that's what we're going to go through. And they're going to be specific to growing a direct sales company. So that's going to be a good time. Also, attend all team conventions. The next team convention is the Breakthrough Convention. It's going to be here in Indianapolis. It's going to be a weekend long. This is the guys from 300. They will not be attending because they died thousands of years ago. But the idea is that we're putting together a team, and how do you put together a team that will break through the wall and get done what you need to get done? That's what we're going to be talking about. Those are going to be $197 at the door, $49 till basically the end of June. It says June 23rd, but till the end of June. And we're going to build that in. We've got people flying in from other states that are going to come in and speak. Bess McCarthy from the MLM Millionaire Club is going to be here. Her brother is going to be here from, I believe, the University of Kansas, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it's Illinois. It's somewhere in Illinois. I know he's 3.5 hours away, so that'd be Illinois. He's going to be coming in and actually teaching. Hi, Jim. How are you? So the Team Breakthrough event in September, you want to mark that on your calendar. Make sure you're available for that. That's going to be a great time. And then last, create a roadmap. And the roadmap is basically your roadmap each month of what you're going to get done. I make a goal every month of how many people I want to present to. Other than that, I really can't control. I can't control how many people get in. I can't control how many people buy. I can only control how many people I present to. So what I do is I make a number of how many people I present to, and my goal is to smash through that number. And what I did is I went around the room, and here's how I came up with this theory. I went around the room when I was early in the business and finally deciding to do this, and I started asking the people at the front who were speaking. I said, you know, I see that you've succeeded in this, that, and the other thing. I said, when you were running, when you were trying to get to the level you're at, not what you do now, because you're already at the level, what was your activity level? How many people did you present to? And here's what I heard. Well, now I do about 15 presentations. Okay, that's now. You're maintaining. What did you do on your run? Well, when I started to run, it was like 30. But when I really started running, it was 45. And the months that I was really like, I got to those levels, I don't remember, 60 to 100. 60 to 100 presentations. Now, this is stupid, right? Break that down. How many days are in there in a month?
30.
So if you present 100 times, how many times are you presenting each day? 3?
Oh, 3.
3 times a day. 3 presentations a day. How long is the presentation?
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Let's say it's 20. So if it's 20 minutes, how hard, how many hours do you have to work to be absolutely the number one presenter? 20, 20, and 20 is what? That's 1 hour.
1 hour.
So you're telling me that the fastest, the best, the most crushing people work 1 hour a day. But it's every day. That's really what's hard. It's not hard to do it once. It's not even hard to do it twice. But to do it consistently 5 and 6 days a week is what becomes hard. Because here's what becomes hard. It's not hard to do the presentation. It's hard to get enough people in front of the information. But if you could develop a system or a way or an advertising to be able to do that, guess how easy this would be?
Very.
Could you do it from your house? Could you do it from your car? Could you do it without shoes on? I'll be real honest, sometimes you can actually present on the phone, you don't even have pants on. I'm just saying. Hopefully everybody that I've presented to that's hearing this right now, I've had pants on. But I'm just saying, you don't even have to be able to do this and do this well. And you can run hard, and you can do a presentation at 9 a.m. and you can do a presentation at 12 a.m. It doesn't matter. The purpose is to be able to do the presentation. So with that, we have now gotten through the first half. We're going to take a break. Appreciate everybody for jumping on and watching. Ben, how's it going? Jim, how's it going? Anna, how's it going? We're going to go ahead and get started back here in about 25 to 30 minutes. Thank you so much.